All right, there we go. Welcome in, everybody, to another Doc Talk coming to you live, still from Portland, Oregon, but not at the SMWW office. Instead, actually from my home, as it is after hours. And I just wanted to mix things up for tonight. But we are not mixing up the format. We have another great Doc Talk starting for you guys here tonight. We have, of course, Mark Dominik, former NFL GM of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and current instructor for our football GM and scouting course. And of course, as always, Dr. Lynn Lashbrook. Some notes for tonight. Make sure that you guys use the chat function down below. We do want to encourage you guys to network with each other. Feel free to share your LinkedIn profiles and all that kind of stuff and swap messages. Also, to show that you have a question, make sure that you click the raise hand button. It's at the bottom of your screen. You might see it under the reactions button. Click reactions, and then you will see the raise hand button. We will be getting to questions about 25 to 30 minutes into this session. We're going to start off with Dr. Lashbrook's interview, get Mark Dominik's background, find out what he has to say, and then we want to hear from you guys. So we're very excited to have everyone in. I'm sure we'll have a few more stragglers start here soon. But I'm going to hand the mic over to Dr. Lashbrook, and we'll get it started.
Mike, it's good to see you after work after 5. I want to welcome everyone. It's live in Seattle, Washington. Glad to be in tonight. Really looking forward to talking to Mark Dominik. Want to remind everybody, this is about for you. We love questions, and we're here for 1 hour. It's a power hour, but I appreciate you coming in. Have some fun. Pass notes to each other in class, and we'll get through this together as we come out of COVID. Mark, can you hear me?
I got you good. Can you hear me okay?
I can. Where are you located tonight?
Tonight is Nashville, Tennessee, upstairs in the office. So happy to be home. Let's go.
It's been a long time. A year ago, we always met in Indy. Where were you this year during Indy?
So during Indy, I was actually down in Dallas working with the Exos facility and doing a mini combine for a bunch of players that are small school guys that are worried that scouts won't come to their pro day. And
Mark,
so
before we get to the COVID and coming up with the draft, it's going to be exciting to see. It's good to see, and I appreciate our friendship and you belonging to SMW family. Mark, I always do this every time, but I think your story is one of the more inspirational ones because it's a true story. But let's go back to high school, because I think when you walk everybody through where you are today and the path you've taken, I think it's an inspiration. So let's start from high school. Where'd you go? And let's tell me the story. Take your time, and then we'll get into a few hard football questions, and then we'll open it up to our group tonight.
That's perfect. It's good to see people, some faces I know. I see Sharice. I've grown to love Sharice a lot, so it's good to see some old members of our team. But growing up, went to high school in Lawrence, Kansas. Happened to move there as a sophomore, and spent 3 years there at Lawrence High. And obviously a natural transition for me to go to the University of Kansas. It's right there. And it was very affordable. Dr. Lashbrook, back then, like tuition was $700 per semester for in-state. So very affordable. The unique thing for me in that opportunity was this is 1989 through 93, 94. And so sports management was starting to be on the map. Like, University of Mass had it, Amherst, Ohio State had a program, Ohio had a program, but a lot of people didn't yet. It wasn't this program that people knew what it was. And so here I am as a sophomore now at the University of Kansas, and a buddy of mine comes down the hall that I know, and he's like, hey, they got this new program called sports management. And me being a guy that played just about every sport growing up to some level, whether it was baseball, tennis, football, certainly, basketball. I mean, I played them all. I swam, I dove, I did whatever. I did cross country one year. I mean, I did all the sports, so I love sports. I'm like, that sounds perfect. I'm going to do that. And so we go there, and lo and behold, so then what I decided to do is, as I'm going through the sports management program, sports administration program at Kansas, I volunteer at the athletic department, and I do anything. It doesn't matter what it is. I would literally sell tickets. I would go to the marketing and promotions department and go hang posters wherever it was, whether it was a Chili's or an Applebee's for women's volleyball or women's basketball. I would go to tennis meets. I would certainly go to the football games, baseball games, whatever it was. And I was just part of the football university athletic program, although I was volunteering my time. And I knew that would be helpful. I did it because I loved it, right? I didn't realize how important that network was going to end up being in my career. So fast forward to my senior year, and at that time to graduate from Kansas with a degree in sports administration, sports business, you had to do an internship. And I was very fortunate. I had made very good connections with people within the University of Kansas hierarchy. And I got to know the dean very well as the athletic director. And so what happened is the Kansas City Royals called, and we're looking for an intern. And I'm like, that's awesome, because that's probably the sport I played more than anything. I umpired baseball, played baseball, coached baseball up to 18-year-olds. I mean, I was very involved in baseball. Now, I was a football kid growing up. I was a Saturday, you play at the creek, you go outside. I grew up in North Carolina, small. So Saturday, you're at the creek, you're playing around the neighborhood, stuff like that. When the lights come on, you can get home kind of night. Sunday, you go to church, you come home, you watch football. Like, that was it. And then Monday was like, beg your parents to stay up past halftime. And if you could do that, you were great. So I loved pro football. But anyway, so I had an opportunity to interview with the Royals. And I was down to a final interview. I had been whittled down from whatever it was down to 2 people. And I had a final interview on a Wednesday. And I can remember being at my mom's house, because she still lived in Lawrence at the time. And because I was home doing laundry like we all do if you're in college.
Still do, Mark.
Right. And so I was at my mom's house, and I got a call on the phone, and it was a guy named Terry Bradway, who at that time was the director of college for the Kansas City Chiefs, who went on to be the GM of the New York Jets. And Terry called and said, hey, look, we're looking for an internship. We got your name from your dean, your athletic director. We're looking for the first ever internship in scouting with the Chiefs. And they recommended you. And I'm like, that's freaking amazing. He's like, is there any chance you can come in tomorrow? So this is Sunday night. I got my final interview with the Royals on Wednesday. Is there any chance you can come in tomorrow? And I said, absolutely. It's about an hour drive. I'm like, I'll be there. What time? He's like, 9 o'clock. I'm like, I'm there. And so I'm ecstatic, but don't know what's really going to happen. I drive over to the Kansas City Chiefs, meet Terry Bradway. We speak for about an hour and a half. I meet a couple other people within the Chiefs organization. And then I told Terry at the end, he's like, do you have any questions, anything? I was like, I'll just be honest. You know, I have an interview with the Royals on Wednesday for a final opportunity. When will you guys make your decision? He said, I'll be right back. He sat in the office, and then 5 minutes later, he's like, do you want the internship? I'm like, yes. Yes. And so it's amazing. That's all a blessing, because the fact is that baseball went on strike that year, and I'd lost my internship with baseball. And knowing that I had a chance, so I was very fortunate, very blessed to work with the Chiefs and spend an internship with them back in 1993. That's with, Marcus Allen and Derek Thomas and Joe Montana. I mean, it was like a who's list. So I spent a year and a half with the Kansas City Chiefs, but never a full-time employee, made $6,000 a year. It was what it was, right? It was an opportunity. And then the Bucks opened up a job for $25,000 a year. And I'm thinking, that's great. And they're going to give me like medical benefits. And so I fly down to Tampa Bay in the summer of 1995. And they just drafted Warren Sapp and Derek Brooks. And we love them in Kansas City. Certainly thought it was a fantastic draft. And I thought, boy, if they can get it turned around, what a great place to be. Because at that point, the Bucks had been double-digit losers for over every year. They lost more than 10 games for over 10 years straight. And I thought, well, if I can go there and maybe they can get it right, what a great opportunity. So I go to Tampa Bay and I get the interview, and Jerry Angelo interviews me, who ends up one day growing on to be the GM of the Chicago Bears. Yeah. And he's like, do you want the job? And I'm like, yes. So I take the job, move down to Tampa, and we go 6-10 and another double-digit season of losses. The Chiefs go 13-3.
8, 6, 8, 9, 7, 6, 8.
I don't know where that is. Go ahead.
All good. And so I'm like, what have I done? And, and I'm just like, I'm disappointed in myself. But then everything starts to come together. We in Tampa Bay end up hiring Coach Dungy as our head coach. I spent 2 more years as a pro personnel assistant, become a pro scout in 97, become the coordinator of pro scouting in 99, become the director of pro scouting in 2002. And I worked my way up through the organization. Although we obviously made a tough decision with Coach Dungy, we traded for John Gruden, and we won a Super Bowl. And very fond memories seeing the Bucks go back and win again this year. It brings back a lot of those good vibes. So I spent 19 years with the Bucks. 14 of those years, I was working my way up the ladder. And then in 2009, the Bucks made a change at the GM and head coaching position, and they named me general manager back in 2009. Spent 5 years with the Bucks as the GM, and we didn't win enough. And quite frankly, this league, as you can see, it's about the quarterback position. It is. And you see what's going on with Deshaun Watson. We see what's going on right now with Russell Wilson. We see Ben Roethlisberger comes back to the Steelers for another year. If your quarterback doesn't win, you're not going to win. And our quarterback was a really talented young player. He lost off the field and made lots of difficult decisions that cost him his career and others' careers. So yeah, after 5 years, we didn't win enough games. Fact is, and I got let go. And so now it's 2014. Like, what are you going to do? I got to know Adam Schefter really well through my years at the Bucks, and became a dear friend. And he's like, "You need to do television. Come to ESPN and come do TV." And I said, "Okay, I'll go try it." And so I do a tryout with ESPN. They hire me the next day, and I spend 5 years doing television at ESPN. I still do Fox Sports as we sit here today. Since 2014, I do NFL radio every week. Show, in case I'm just trying to plug it, is
We'll plug it for you. We'll plug it for you.
Yeah, Sirius XM NFL radio. It's every Friday. I'm on from 11 to 3 Eastern.
Yeah.
And just talk football for 4 hours straight. Sometimes it's 3 hours, depending on what we have around us. And then I work with a company right now called X10 Capital, which also works with NFL players that are in their rookie years to help them maximize their earnings and make sure they start to fund their retirement as early as possible. Because these guys know they don't know. I'm trying to help them learn that this is a very difficult journey in terms of getting paid at the NFL. So spent my whole life in the NFL. I've been happy about it. You got some war relics behind me in terms of some people I've met or opportunities that have happened with me. But I love football, and I've been one of those guys that doesn't work.
Mark, Liz and I were our Chiefs. I've been 2 years in a row, of course, and we have a lot in common. But it was still great to go back a year for the Kansas City Chiefs that you grew up with. At the same time, I understand your joy for Tampa Bay. Mark, let's get in. We're living in COVID. We're almost out of it. I got my 2 shots, by the way, so that's up. I don't have to wear a mask tonight. But let's face it, we always met in Indy and did a conference. You always spoke at it. Adam Schefter spoke at it. It was just 300 people. It was fun. It was fun, and it was fun. We didn't have that here. Talk about, to our students out here, the implications of COVID getting ready for the draft. Your insight, if I may, because we read about it, but tell me from your talking to your GM, your fellow colleagues, if I may, how are they dealing with it, and what are some of the adjustments inside the game?
Yeah, there's a lot of pieces there, Dr. Lashbrook, and I thought last year was going to be somewhat difficult based off of like no pro days and thinking how unfair that was for young players. And this year is even worse, quite frankly, because with no combine, we're still going to be able to do medicals. They're doing regional medical combines where they take 60, 80 guys. They still vote on them, who gets to go, all those kind of things. But it's a very unique and challenging spot to learn character this year more than ever before. Because before you would have an area scout, right? And they would go into Auburn or wherever, and they would sit there and they'd see their buddy at Auburn. If they'd been there for enough years, they'd be like, tell me about Joe, tell me about Daryl, tell me about whoever. And if you had good connections, you could get the contact. You could get some information like, this kid likes football. I don't know if he loves it. Or, there's a lot more medical going on behind the scenes here. Or, don't sleep on this guy. This guy's got some real juice to him. Watch him in practice today. And this year, you weren't able to do that. Everything was via Zoom. So like, it would be just like this class. Like, I'm going to call in, Dr. Lashbrook is the pro liaison for Auburn. And here I am with you all, which is 20 whatever other teams. And now we're all just like, okay, let's go through the players. And all the scouts don't want to really ask the hard questions because they're like, if I ask the right question and I get inside information, maybe this isn't the form to do it in. So it's a lot more difficult this year to discern character. And truthfully, character to me has always been the floor of a player. Like, you go to the tape, right? And you watch the tape of a football player and you realize like, I think he's this good. Well, the character sets the floor, or excuse me, the tape sets the floor, the character sets the ceiling. Like, how much do we love it? How much do you going to work at? How much do you really want it? And that's the thing that really kind of elevates guys. And that's how we miss in the first round. That's how we miss in the fourth round, is we've got a sense of what we think the guy is, but we're not quite sure of like how much drive, how much passion, how much desire does he have to be the best he can be, or to work as hard as he possibly can to become a contributor. And does he want to play in 6 more years? Does he just want to play for 4? Does he want to play football because of what it gives him, or does he want to play football because of what he loves? And that's the hard thing this year, Dr. Lashbrook. It's been difficult talking to clubs. And then these pro days are just piling on, and there's a bunch of them coming up real quick.
Are they mostly Zoom, or is there a couple on? Are some scouts in the room, if I may, respectfully? Because I know the access is still virtual, if I may. But tell me, are scouts going to tryouts pro day like in the past?
Yes, scouts will come to pro days this year, so you will be able to attend now a pro day at the different universities. I think they're going to limit the capacity, and they're going to limit the stances, the distancing that you have. They're also going to videotape it and make it public. But that's going to be the one thing. That's going to be your one chance as a scout. If you're going to Alabama, you better be ready, because you've got 16 kids. You got to start a speed date real fast to sit there and say who's what. And so I think this is the interesting thing, Dr. Lashbrook. I said this about last week on the radio, is you have to decide how you're going to tackle a 2021 draft. We saw John Schneider said, you know what, I'm just going to trade my pick. I'm taking Jamal Adams because I don't want to have to pick high, because I'm not really sure how this thing's going to play out. I don't know what I'm going to do. At the same point, you have to decide if you're going to be a team that's going to take chances on players that you're not 100% certain on. And that you've got to decide where on the draft you're going to put those guys. Or are you going to be a team that's ultra conservative and sit there like we grade character just like anybody else would, meaning we give it letter grades though. You know, A character, B character, C character, D character, F character, and then there's plus and minuses within that. And I think in this year, you're going to see some clubs that are going to be like, you know what, I'm going to take the guy that's got lesser talent on tape, but has a higher character, because I can't be wrong on that. And I don't want to take my chance. And so it's going to be very interesting to watch players rise that maybe people are like, well, I thought he was like a 4th rounder and he goes in the 2nd. Well, he's, you know, impeccable off the field. He's never been hurt. Coaches all raved about him. He's got, you know, the size. He just may not have what the production or the drive. And the opposite of that will be are there going to be some clubs that are like, I can't believe he's still on the board. Like, I'm taking this guy in the 3rd round, and everybody's like, I would not touch that guy. He's had suspension. He's had a drug test. He's had an altercation with a fight. He's had this and that. And you're like, I'm not taking that chance. And so this is going to be a very unique year to watch each team. Where do they put the value of character versus the value of the tape? And
you know, Mark, and you can imagine, you know, when we go to a pro day, there'd be 30, 40 scouts, and they're all huddled up, and they share the you know, what was the time, and they whisper, and, you know, it'll be fascinating. It'll probably be inefficient to some extent of the old days. And that brings me up, before we go to Sele, we have many questions here, Mark, and I have many questions. I guess my last question before we go to that, in the world of opportunities in sports, and we've gone through a lot with COVID and social unrest and everything like that, but analytics now with COVID, would you say more important or just the same in the role of trying to make that pick? Because this can be the most exciting draft ever watched from a consumer. I just think it's going to be great TV. It's going to be fascinating. And I wouldn't want to be a GM, Mark. I wouldn't want to be the guy having to make that pick. But back to many of our students take analytics from Aaron Schatz, and we know Mike Stober and digital video editing. But you've watched the growth of the game since you were hired by the Chiefs in analytics. Talk a little bit about the growth of the department, including the capology, before we go to questions about opportunities out there. And it's not just coaching or being the assistant coach.
Yeah, no, I think analytics are certainly continue to build. I deal and work with analytics every day with what I do with X10 Capital in terms of working with athletes right now. Yeah. And so I understand the power of analytics and what it means in earning potential, but also playing potential. And, you know, I think the unique thing that I think clubs are learning or seeing is, you know, certain sizes that where you're like the risk versus reward isn't there anymore. Like, you know, if you want corners under 5'8", you know, 1 out of every, whatever it is, 32 guys actually make the National Football League. Well, what's the point then? Like, let's be wrong on that one instead of trying to be right out of 1 out of 32 times, right? And so that's where analytics kind of come into it to me. I also think that analytics could show things like true quarterback accuracy. I think analytics can show true catch radius for a player. I think analytics show a lot of those kind of individual situations much better. I think in terms of offensive line, it's a lot harder to me to judge from an analytics standpoint. There, it's going back to me old school. That's anchor, strength, and physicality and placement. But I think when you get to the perimeter, the further away you a little bit get from the ball, I think more of the analytics actually play into it, other than quarterback. Because I do think that you can certainly look at running backs even and sit there and say, like, what is his average yards per first contact, second contact, all those things. And so there's a huge growth there that I think is just starting to get tapped. And I think we're going to learn a lot more about also technology with the football and technology with the stuff the guys are working in terms of endurance are all going to be really critical. I saw Daniel Jeremiah, Dr. Lashbrook talked about, like, pro days may become obsolete one day because all these guys are going to be wearing chips and we're going to be able to pull.
No, I think so. Yeah. It's almost it's a revolution. And to be honest with you, Mark, when we get into the college athletes and kids will have an agent going to college and some will make too much money to go pro and be a late round draft pick. It's a brand new world. To me, it's exciting from a business standpoint, but it's also crazy. Let's start taking questions, Mark. I appreciate you giving this time tonight. Let's go to Saleh first with a question. I bring Saleh in.
How you doing, Mr. Lashbrook? Nice to see you again.
Thank you. Introduce yourself.
Hi, Mr. Dominik. My name is Saleh Nahoro. I'm 24 years old, currently sports writing. I'm from New Jersey, too. Struggling Jets fan. Nice to finally see you. I've seen you a lot on ESPN, so it's nice to actually talk to you for once.
Appreciate it.
I'm actually doing a report on quarterbacks and looking into the draft this year. We have, quarterbacks like Zach Wilson and Trevor Lawrence. And my question to you is, it feels like there's a lot of buzz coming for Zach Wilson. A lot of people are really liking him over Trevor Lawrence. But I feel like the media and the fan pressure of the Jaguars maybe having to draft the Trevor Lawrence because they don't want to risk passing on him because of whatever. Is that pressure real to a team and like picking a player because of media and fan attention?
Mark, it's a good question, and I want you to know, I always, when students ask me questions like that, I said, just remind you that 1/3 of the GM and coaches are fired every year, so don't get too critical of whatever the decision is. Go ahead with your very good question. Go ahead with your comment.
It's a great question. I mean, what did you? I don't know if you all saw Chris Sims's list today. Like he had Zach. I mean, that's where a lot of people are talking about it, right? Because Chris has been pretty hot over the last 4 or 5 years. He's been nailing the first pick in the draft in terms of. He had Lamar Jackson as his favorite quarterback, right? He had Patrick Mahomes as his favorite quarterback. And so Chris has done really good, and he certainly had Zach up there above Trevor Lawrence. Now, I do think because of the location of where Trevor Lawrence was, where he is, certainly the relationship between, I think, Dabo and Urban is unique. I do think there's pressure there, but I think that I've had a chance to, this is what's unique to me is I haven't had a chance to talk to as many people that know Zach Wilson, right? I just don't. But with Trevor Lawrence, I've met with 10, 12 Clemson kids because I help all these kids interview, prep for the combine, how to present themselves the best way. And I meet with a lot of Clemson players, and I have over the last 2 or 3 years. And to every one of them, I don't care what position they play, they're like, he's a dude. Like he's one of us. Like he's my friend, he's my teammate, and so it's going to be really hard. And to your point, I don't think so, because when I watched, Trevor Lawrence's pro day and you watched Urban Meyer there in the middle of the field with Dabo Swinney, Urban Meyer didn't even watch the pro day. He was sitting there talking to Dabo. Like he's already made up his mind. Like I think they've made up their mind. And I think they also are doing it because obviously Florida's right near South Carolina, fan base, Trevor. But I do agree with Chris that, that there's guys that are going to drop a little bit more because I think Mac Jones is more popular than people realize. And I think Justin Fields is going to fall into the Ohio State stigmatism of like, how good is he as a quarterback? And so I think it's going to be interesting, but I do believe like 100%. And I think it's even worse now than it was even when I was GM, and Twitter was there and all these social media was there. I think now is even more a point where a GM almost has to make sure he doesn't read it and doesn't see it, because you absolutely fall prey to it. You do, because you can't help it. And you see it around you all the time. You feel like, well, maybe I'm missing something. But I think in this situation, Trevor Lawrence will still go number one, because he's been doing it at the highest level for the longest time.
Mark, staying on quarterback here, before we wait for our next question, I encourage anybody to raise their hand. Ike will bring you in. Mark, talking about quarterbacks and talking about free agency, I've been in it for 25 years on this side, and I've never seen anything like it. And I'll start with Deshaun Watson, but talking about the landscape, you set the stage, but the free agent veterans that won out, it's a new world, Mark. I don't think I'd ever want to be a GM. I won't be, but I just can't imagine there's a night where you can spend an hour with your family. But go ahead with Deshaun Watson's situation and the landscape out there.
Yeah, both Russell and Deshaun are confusing. I mean, Deshaun, and I know his agent really well. He's a friend of mine. And I actually asked him, like, well, if Deshaun wanted out of Houston so bad, why did you sign an extension, 4 months ago? Like, you'd be better off. That you'd have a lot more freedom, a lot more flexibility, a lot easier to trade you. I got to be honest. I'm never trading Deshaun Watson. He'll just never play football again.
I like that answer.
I'm not going to let him play somewhere else. You're going to have to give me 4 or 5 number ones, and I'm still going to be nervous about it, because it's that hard to find a guy like that. And so I understand exactly what Nick Cassera is doing. And you got to remember, Nick came from Bill, and it's a very hard stance, hard line. I think of probably the best story I can ever give you with the Patriots is, and I've made, I think, 6 trades with the Patriots in my NFL career, where I've been on the phone with Belichick making the trade. He's harsh. And so I can remember he had a guy, and Dr. Lashbrook will know him, and a lot of you may know the name Logan Mankins. And Logan Mankins was a first-round pick and just a warrior for them for years. For almost like 8 or 9 years, he was their starting guard, and he was the guy that everybody loved in the locker room. And they go to Logan Mankins before the start of the season. I'm trying to think what year it was, but anyway, and they actually take a $2 or $3 million pay cut. Logan says no, and they cut him. And Logan happened to be right in between the area where they never won a Super Bowl. So Logan Mankins is known as a great Patriot, but never won a Super Bowl. And that's the same year the Patriots won a Super Bowl. And it showed me how harsh and ugly New England handles players, handles the salary cap. And so when you think about that, you think about Nick Cassera and what he's doing there in terms of, running that team. And so I understand why he's like, I'm not even taking calls. Like, I'm not entertaining it. Where we read today, like, they're answering the phone in Seattle. They're not answering the phone in Houston. I would do the same thing. I just couldn't do it. In terms of Russell, I'm surprised by the Russell.
I am too.
Just because I know Russell and I know John Schneider and know Pete Carroll, and I'm surprised how bitter it got, how fast it got. And for other than just watching Deshaun Watson be in control, it just made me surprised that Russell's like, I want to get out of here. And I have a feeling partially Seattle, the city, the town, the whatever. It's partially his wife and it's partially him. But that one escalated way past what I thought it would be, to where, Chicago's sitting there scratching their head, going like, you're telling me there's a chance. But we'll see what happens. But in these situations, I agree, Dr. Lashbrook. It's a shame. Yeah. And I understand, like, again, I've been working with players now over the last 4 years. I get where their concerns are. I'm surprised that a Deshaun Watson, who just signed a multi-year extension, would put himself in this situation, knowing that he's got $20 million on the line next year. He may not get. I mean, let's take a step back and look at Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell misplayed his career and didn't take that franchise tag.
I agree with you.
Himself $13 million. Le'Veon Bell's not even going to make $50 million in his NFL career, which is a lot of money. But Le'Veon so misplayed his NFL career that he left money on the table. You can't do that. And Deshaun cannot do that. As great as he is, no one can beat Father Time. Yeah. And so anyway, it's
great insight. Being in Seattle, it's a daily conversation, and it's fascinating. I feel exactly the same way you do. Let's go to Jabraylin with a question. Introduce yourself, Jabraylin. Thanks for coming in tonight for Mark. Go ahead.
There's Jabril Van Zant. I'm 23 years old. I'm a junior student at the University of Texas at Tyler. And I have a question to you about the Houston Texans. As a former GM with the Bucks, and since you have about 19 years experience in the NFL, as when you would be in Nick Casario's shoes, when you're handling with the press, because you had turnovers with Amy Pollack, you have all the other turnovers and changes in the front office. So when it comes to controversial guys such as Jack Easterby, whose most of the media is painting in a bad light, and I really don't know too many people. I got one source in there who kind of says that it's kind of like splitting hairs on what they want to do since they're trying to be able to compete, but they got all the other needs they have, turn up with Watt. They got all the players they need to adjust for salary caps. They're cutting players. They're trying to make a couple different deals with teams or like the undrafted free agents they might be looking at. So it's kind of a bit of a mess. And
let's do what Mark has to say. And it is about culture, Mark. There's 32 teams and there's 32 cultures out there. And I think it's a bigger issue than just one person. Go ahead.
Well, it is. There's a lot of parts to that. And I like the question, Mr. Van Zandt. It's a good question because I look at it from a lot of different things. Now, number one, Jack Easterby, I don't know him.
Yeah.
But I know this, Jack Easterby had nothing to do with trading Hopkins. He had nothing to do with trading for Tunsil. He became the poster child for beating up. I don't know why, other than the fact that he knew Nick Caserio. So I feel bad for Jack a little bit because I think he's gotten thrust into a situation where he wasn't making decisions. Like Watson's mad because of the choices they made, but Jack wasn't making those choices. So that's unique. I also think in Houston, if I was Nick Caserio, and I worked with David Coley in Tampa Bay and know Coach Coley well, and think very highly of him. Every day, no matter what, we're calling Deshaun Watson. Every day I'm calling his agent, me and Coach Coley. We're going to be on the phone together. We're going to call every day.
Yeah,
and I'm going to leave a voice message. I know you're not calling me back. I don't care. We love you. And at some point, you're going to break through and we're going to sit down and have a conversation because we should. And I know this is the game that we are all playing and I get it. And it's a business to you. It's a business to us. But we love you and we think you're a great player and we have a plan for you. And I would just continue to do that nonstop to try to break it down and to understand that we're going to be now an organization of communication where maybe before you felt like you weren't as involved as you wanted to be. And that's certainly why you've gotten to where you are. But I want you to feel that you can be involved here. And I want you to know that you will be involved here. But we can't do that unless you call me back, right? That's what we need you to do. And I just need 2 minutes of your time, Deshaun, because this is not, I know Deshaun Watson, decent. The Deshaun Watson that's going through this is not the Deshaun Watson I know. He's not. He's a great kid. People who try to attack his character are wrong. He's a phenomenal kid. It's why Dabo Sweeney's like, don't pass up on Michael Jordan, right? Dabo, he was like, don't pass up on Michael Jordan because he's that kind of kid. And so I knock down the door every day and I try to see if I can find a way to put the olive branch out there and resurrect what's happened into what can happen and let him know that my focus still is the offensive line. My focus still is skilled players around him. My focus is still his football team. Now, I will say this, Houston continues to make mistakes. JJ Watt's a prime example. They should not have cut JJ Watt. If he's going to go out there and get $16.5 to $17 million a year, you should have got a draft pick for him.
Yeah.
And so they're making mistakes still within that organization where there's not enough accountability in terms of when they make decisions, who's saying yes or no. So they still got to clean some stuff up within the house too.
Thanks for the question. Great insight, Mark. Let's go to Xavier. Xavier, come in with the introduction and your question for Mark. Anybody else that wants to ask a question, you raise that hand and we'll bring you in. This is a great opportunity to talk to Mark. Go ahead, Xavier. And don't get in an accident now. We don't like that part of it.
No, I'm definitely not. Thank you, everybody, for having me on. I'm just getting off of work. I work at Amazon, so I'm trying to hurry up and get home so I can be seated. But
we call that prime time.
That's exactly what I'm trying to do. Prime time, yes, sir. I got invited by Miss Sharice. I appreciate her for letting me be on this call, and I appreciate all the insight that everybody is having right now. My question is kind of a two-part question since I am in Houston. I've been on the ground from day one when it comes to this whole Deshaun Watson situation. And to be completely honest, I'm I'm actually excited to see the development of what actually finally happens when it comes to, does Deshaun Watson get his way, or will the Texans tell him, hey, you're going to have to sit down and play with us this year? And the question I have for Mr. Dominik is, because he said that Deshaun, it's kind of confusing that Deshaun wants out after he signed his extension. Well, the question I have, because you just talked about JJ getting his guaranteed money, got 2 years, 31 million, 23 guaranteed. And at the end of the day, when it comes to the NFL, it's about the guaranteed money, correct? It's not about the 10-year deal, $500 million like Patrick Mahomes, because who knows, in year 6 or 7, if the Chiefs are tired of him, they might trade him, correct? So it doesn't mean that just because you have a contract that you're going to play out your full contract. Now, another example I want to use is a guy like Kyle Van Noy. We just saw he just got cut by the Miami Dolphins a couple of days ago when he got brought in to be the guy for that defense for the next 4 years. He only played 1 year of that 4-year contract and he got a cut. So my question again to you, Mr. Dominik, is I think the reason why they went ahead and signed that deal was because they wanted to, of course, obtain that guaranteed money. But because of what we've seen in the past with contracts, either because of a team or a player, it seems like contracts are not as, how you can say, they're not
Xavier, great question. And Mark, let's talk about that. It's kind of from a CBA standpoint. You said they should keep Deshaun. Xavier, thank you so much. Drive safely, and we'll get your answer. But that's a very good question, the leverage, the guarantee. And when you said they ought to just call his bluff, what happens, the consequences for Deshaun Watson? Because that money is not guaranteed if he's not playing.
So Xavier brings up some really strong points, meaning like it is. And I try to tell young players, you don't want to be the highest player average per year in the National Football League. That's not what you want to be. You want to have the highest average guaranteed contract.
Yeah, right.
That's what you want. And it comes down to like, what did you earn? I mean, you look back at safeties in the NFL, and the highest earner in the history of the NFL was Charles Woodson. Like he still has the mantle for that. And that's a long time ago, right? He's got a coach going. So it shows you he played it correctly and he was under the old rookie deal. But in this situation, I understand, like, he wanted to grab the guaranteed money because everything's not certain. But at the same point, it made it much more difficult for the Houston Texans to ever trade him. And that's one of the things that I would be talking to David, his agent, about. Is like, brother, we just signed a contract 7 months ago, and it's going to be very painful for me from an organizational standpoint to even move him in the first place. And I don't want to. And I also would sit there and look at him and say, I'm glad you grabbed the money. What's changed? Like, this is where you've got to communicate. Deshaun, what's changed? We got rid of Bill O'Brien. That was a problem, right? Yeah. Okay. We're not going to, I know we had to let go of JJ Watt from a financial standpoint because of COVID and everything like that. But what's changed? Because the main thing that you got frustrated with was, why did we get rid of Hopkins? I got to think. I can't think of anything else that we've done that have made you. So what's got you to this point? Let's go take a step back and let's walk forward to where we are today to understand why you're at such a bitter point. And if it's irreconcilable, then we'll see. But here's the thing with Houston, right? If Deshaun Watson doesn't play next year, he's out $20 million.
That's what I was saying.
And his contract tolls, so nothing happens. And so the reality is, as a Houston Texan, you can just go, you know what? I don't want the draft picks. He just never plays football again for the rest of his life. And that's where it can get to. And if you want to put your head in the sand, or if you want to be really stubborn, and I worked with a man that was like that, Bruce Allen, who did that, as you saw with Trent Williams, until the new GM came in. Trent Williams is never going to play football again. He's like, you know what? You're done. Just don't ever play. I saw them do it with Jake Plummer in a weird, different way. And so because he's such a unique talent, there's two things I would do. Number one, I would be working on communication. Number two is, Xavier, I would be understanding that if he's this good, which we believe he is, then we should get 4 first-round picks. So tell me the club that's going to give me four first-rounders, and let's talk. I'll have a conversation. But for me to give up 3 first-rounders, I'd give you 4 first-rounders right now for Patrick Mahomes. Is your player better or as good as Patrick? He'd be like, yeah, he's good. He's actually getting paid more than he is. Great. So find me somebody who's going to give me 4 first-round picks, and then we'll have a discussion. But it has to be 4 first-rounders at a minimum, because I don't know if I can find Deshaun Watson again. And those are the things. But Deshaun is stuck by the cap and by the CBA, because if he sits out again, his contract just sits there and tolls. And what tolls means it just repeats itself forever. It never goes away. So he never moves out of his contract. And we get to fine him every day, $50,000, whatever it is, $50,000 every day he's not there. So after a while, Deshaun Watson's going to end up owing me $5-6 million and never make a penny. And that's hard. And then the other thing you could do, if you really want to be really difficult on him, is you're like, hey, Deshaun, you know what? We're going to trade you, but we want every penny of our signing bonus back.
Mm-hmm.
Good chance Deshaun spent some of that. And now it becomes hard to get that money. It's like, oh dear. I bought like a car, I bought a house, I bought this, I bought that. I don't have all that money. Uncle Sam took half of it. I don't have $19 million, $20 million. Okay, well, let me know when you do. And so, it can become a really difficult journey, and it's a shame. And to your point, Dr. Lashbrook, surprised the NFL is getting to this way. And
I know.
That, to me, Deshaun, they got rid of the number one problem I thought Deshaun had, which was Bill O'Brien. And in Russell Wilson's situation, John Schneider and Thomas Dimitroff, although Thomas just got let go, have invested more in offensive line than just about anything. And although you're trying to, doesn't mean it's paid out. But Russell obviously has gotten frustrated with the overall system, and they fired Brian Schottenheimer. Like, if you remember what was going on, you fired the coach that you didn't like. So it's like the Russell one's really difficult for me.
And Mark, we're going to go to Jason, and we'll come back before we leave. Now, just the role of the agent, because you work for a client. I get all that, but I also I worry sometimes where the agent is on this influential, the mentoring potential. There's a lot of great agents out there, and some have a lot of clients, but that's an interesting dynamic too, because I know if I had a client in that situation, I think, as you're talking, reasonable, I worry sometimes there's an agent out there sometimes that's not taking the whole big picture, because it sometimes can turn tragic as far as a career, as you noted. Let's go to Jason with your introduction for Mark and bring your question. And Jason, thanks for coming in tonight.
Hey, thank you. Thank you guys for having me. Mark, my question for you was, so you were the GM.
Where are you located, Jason?
Oh, I'm from Saginaw, Michigan. I'm a Sad Lions fan for many years now. So, and one of the reasons I was asking is, you said that you had drafted a player who had kind of, quote unquote, beaten themselves off the field, with their problems and whatnot. And recently we've kind of seen that with Johnny Manziel and character issues. And then we've seen Laramie Tunsil, offensive tackle, played for the Dolphins to start. He slid down in the draft. Now he's on the Texans, also there. But now you have these allegations coming out about Micah Parsons. So how difficult is it from like a front office standpoint, like trying to get everybody on the same page? Because you want to like draft this guy who's a physical freak, and he can play, and he's got the talent and the understanding of the game, but at the same time his character issues are very heavy and off the field.
Yeah, you have to balance that out. You have to weigh that out. That's where the area scouts are so critical. I think area scouts, as I've always said, and I think all my area scout buddies have ever heard me on the radio, if I ever, and I won't, but if I ever became a GM again, I would pay area scouts $250,000 each. I'd get the 5, 6, 7 best area scouts in the history of the NFL who know character and understand that that's more part of their game than it is the evaluation. Because think of it this way, and I've used this analogy before, but by the time you draft a player, right, everybody wants to evaluate the player. That's the cool thing to do, right? Like the magazines are about to come out, right, with all these like, he's this good, he's this good, he's this good. Here's his strengths, weaknesses, right? But by the time you draft a player in the NFL, you've got your area scout, number 1. You've got your cross-check, number 2. You got your director of college scouting, number 3. You got your director of player personnel, number 4. You might have an assistant GM or just GM, that's 5. You got your position coach, that's 6. You got your coordinator, that's 7. You got your head coach at 8. So minimum, there's been 8 people that have been evaluating the ability of strengths and weaknesses and what's his ability. There's only been 1 person doing character, which is almost the most important thing you do. And the one thing I would sit there and say, if somebody ever wanted to really create a business, it's character evaluation in the NFL, and be able to sell that to clubs at a deeper level than what we've seen before. And that's a really hard thing to do, but what I've always said is, if you're going to ever interview and you ever get an opportunity to possibly be an intern or a scout, I would sit there and my number one thing I'd be is like, I'm all about getting to know who the guy is and what makes him tick.
Yeah.
I'll learn like X's and O's, or I don't have to learn. I'll tell you what I think he's a player, but I don't think that's important. I think the most important thing is, who is this person? And that's my number one job. And scouts don't feel like that's sexy. People don't read that as sexy, but it is. It's critical. And so when you ask questions like in terms of character, like with Josh Freeman, ours was unique. Like Raheem Morris, our head coach, actually was with him at K-State when Josh was a freshman. So
Right.
you rely on that, right? So you rely on people around a player to give you the confidence of whether you take them or not. You rely on different knowledge you have of the guy that's been around him, whether it's an area scout or a coach, and then you adjust accordingly. I was finally, and I'm probably way behind the world. I finally watched the Aaron Hernandez. And the most amazing thing that I can tell you about that story is he's in the 4th round, and I'm down to 2 players that I'm gonna draft. I'm gonna draft either Mike Williams out of Syracuse, the wide receiver, who I ended up drafting because I had him just a little bit higher because I thought he was less character risk, and Mike ended up messing up his career too. Or Aaron Hernandez. I was a blink away from drafting Aaron Hernandez with the Bucks, and everybody in our war room knew it. I was like, 4th round, I'm gonna take a chance on these guys, and that's where you usually do. You'll usually kind of start to blur the line a little bit as you get into 4th and 5th round, because you're like, my odds of finding a starter get a lot lower. And do I think I have a good enough room around him, meaning players in that draft room, but more so his position room, more so that coach. Can that coach handle this type of guy? And that's where clubs make mistakes, because they're like, he can coach him up.
Mark, coming full circle, making it personal, we met over a phone call when you were trying to get, speaking of character, a client that I've represented for 14 years, Matt Moore, and you watched Hard Knocks. You saw what character he had, particularly handling the drafting of Tannehill and losing his starting job, and in Carolina, the same thing. But I got to be honest with you, you're speaking way you've always felt about character, but it is true. And, for Andy Reid, and I'm not talking here about Matt Moore, but character in that locker room, a mentor for Patrick Mahomes, who's 25 years old. Matt is what we call a character guy. He's proven wherever he's been. And you tried, and I wanted him to go there. He didn't want to leave Miami, but it's really interesting. We're still talking about that. And if you did go back as a GM, it's even more important when you talk about the risk of not focusing on that. Your comment on that?
Yeah, no, it is. And I think that's the thing that, having now been on this side for long enough, Dr. Lashbrook, I know enough people now who to call and other ways. I think one of the most unique things I've ever thought about now that I've been on this side is when I talk to these young men about how to interview, how to prep, how to answer questions appropriately, and the best ways to present themselves. The one thing I've always now learned is like, who's your agent, right? It's Dr. Lashbrook. Great. Good choice. I love him. I know him. Who came in second? Like, who was the second person?
Good one.
Oh, it was, whatever. It was Kyle McCarthy. It was David Dunn, whatever you want to say. Anybody want to say. And then my whole goal would be is now I'm going to reach out to Kyle or David or somebody else. I was like, hey, I heard you came in second on this player. What's he really like?
Oh, that's a good one, Mark.
Because that person's been in their living room. That person's been in their house, has been around them. And I think that they have such insight. And it's not a bitter, because I think I have enough relationship with agents now across the board where it's like, hey, look, you don't have to burn the guy because he didn't pick you. I just want to know, like, and I've been shocked, like guys will be like, oh, he's a great dude. Like, I wish I could get him. And hopefully in 3 years he changes his mind or whatever it is. But you can gain so much knowledge from other agents. And also, I think the other thing is these facilities, like I was just at Exos. And instead of like calling out like who was the worst worker or who's the guy that was always late, because there is absolutely that in everywhere we go. I don't care what you do for a living. There's somebody that's a great person. There's somebody that's not. But I would call every one of these performance teams, whether it's Michael Johnson, whether it's Brandon Marshall, whether it's Exos, whether it's Joe Murphy, and I'd be like, give me the 3 best workers. You don't have to dog anybody. I'm not having you dog anybody. I just need to know who are the 3 guys that were like, every day they were there. They loved it. They lived it. And I guarantee you, we as a group of 25 right now would draft better than half the NFL GMs right now because we have those two questions.
You know, Mark, it's interesting when I wore my academic advisor hat, and I met many scouts, Bill Arnsbarger, some of the top scouts would spend time. You're not supposed to give grades out, but they can ask questions. An academic advisor knows the true what's inside that helmet, probably more than anybody. But I love your detection of going to the one they didn't get. That's a great one. Mark, let's go to Abe. We're almost done here. We got a few more minutes for questions. Let's go to Abe with your introduction and your question for Mark. Abe, thanks for coming in.
Absolutely. Hey, Mark, it's nice to see you again from the summer. I remember it was an awesome experience. So I just want to say hi again and thank you for taking the time.
Thanks for jumping in, Abe.
Absolutely. So I want to talk about particularly the Packers. So I've heard a lot in the media that because they don't have an owner, they don't have that financial backing with the team. So it's kind of harder to get those bigger, maybe sometimes get the free agents and kind of have someone pushing to get like a lot of big name guys in the name of kind of just like improving the team. And I know the Packers have been really good in the long term. Like they draft really well, and in the long term, they just save up their draft picks. So they're able to win for a lot of time. But they've gotten so close at a certain amount of time, like you just got to like get over the hump, you know? So I just want to know like your opinion on not having an owner, how that affects things. Maybe if that affects their chances of winning now, because ultimately the GM, there's a board of directors that runs the team, but the GM has to run the team for the long term and constantly have a winning team for them to be successful because there's no financial backing.
You know, I think it's a very fair question, and certainly sad to hear about Ted Thompson passing on. He was an ultimate scout, right? He was a college scout through and through. Like if you met him at the airport and you didn't know who he was, he's like, "What do you do?" He's like, "I'm a scout." He would never tell you. But Ted lived in that world. Like I want to grow through the draft, and Brian got in there and grabbed the Smith brothers right off the bat, right, and kind of made an impact. I don't think it's a lot different than what most clubs deal with in terms of going to Mark Murphy and being able to talk to Murph about like, you know, here's what I want to do. I think the harder part there is that it's been so ingrained within the Packer culture that, you know, why do we need to do that? Why do we go outside? Because they've been spoiled you guys have been spoiled. You're a Packer fan, Abe? I can't remember.
Oh, yeah, huge Packer fan.
Yeah, you guys have been spoiled to death.
Right.
Think about
it. Disappointed, only won Super Bowl.
No, that's the crazy thing, right? Because you haven't. I mean, you think of it since 1990, 3. It's almost been 10, 20, 30 years straight of like elite quarterback play. No one's ever experienced that. Yeah. Not elite, like you saw the culture like coming there.
All time.
What's that?
2 top 7 guys of all time. It's crazy.
Right. It's incredible, and yet there's only a couple Super Bowls to show for it. But to me, the quarterback absolutely gets you to that 9 and 10 wins. It's what you surround them with, whether it gets you to 11, 12, 13 consistently. And I think the Packers have been in that world. I think Brian's trying to work through that. COVID came in and hit at the wrong time because I think Brian's a different mindset towards it. He's more my age, but he's a little bit younger, where I think he's going to open his brain towards that. And I would think with Aaron being towards the twilight or the winter of his career,
which is every day up there.
I would think that this is now the time where you would take that leverage as much as possible and recruit with it and be able to pull guys over for 1 year, 2 year and do it. But the overall question, I think Murphy's open to it. It's just that you have to come in like every time whenever I met with our owners, you have to come in with a reason what you're doing and why you're doing it and why does it make sense and have it all spelled out, because all they do is go like, why, what, why? They try to break it because they're businessmen.
Like
and they're always trying to what you're doing.
Thank you so much on that. One last question, Mark, and we'll wrap it up here. I really appreciate you taking time this hour in the evening, of course, and Ike and Sharice and listen, everybody. Let's bring, I think it's Lauren next. Lauren, come in with your final question.
Hi, I'm back. I took your class with GM and scouting about 2 years ago, and Dr. Lashbrook told me I should go get my master's. So I'm back now because I'm about to graduate in sport management. My question is more so about how to get into the business, because as a woman trying to break into a man's world, as right now, it's a big thing in the media. what advice do you have, like breaking into the business as a female?
And Mark, before you answer that, here's one of the new DNAs I've been sharing in the world. This college athletics, and you worked in the athletic program, not necessarily in football. We're telling young high school kids of digital video editing, analytics, whatever. There are so many opportunities. I watered the cinder track at Fort Hays. And, Russ Ball was assistant strength coach. He's a salary cap executive vice president, Green Bay. Mike Zimmer was a graduate assistant taking players to the airport. He's a head coach of the Vikings. Mark, in her answering her question, I really love most NFL people started in the college football industry, but you speak from the heart because Lauren has got a bright future and there's so many job opportunities in college that'll lead you to the pros. Go ahead.
Take a step back, Lauren, and go and unmute her, but I'm curious, where did you get your master's degree from?
I got it from Drexel.
Drexel, okay. And where do you currently reside around?
I'm in Baltimore.
You're in Baltimore, okay. And so, what was your master's degree in actually? What was it? Sports management?
Sport management, sport business.
Okay, and have you already obviously reached out to the Baltimore Ravens, I would assume, in some capacity?
Yeah, I have.
What was your angle?
So I talked to somebody. So I actually work for a high school level program for football, and I've been doing that for about 7 years as football ops manager. And they had a big high school thing earlier, late last year, and so with the football ops guys, and so I just kind of messaged them and told them exactly what I was doing. I was finishing my master's and that I wanted to get involved in football operations if they had any internships available. And then of course they had their big COVID outbreak and everything kind of shut down.
Sure.
So it's kind of just been
hard for everybody.
Been hard, yeah.
So here's what I would suggest you do. Number one, I'm not sure who the director of football operations is for the Baltimore Ravens. But what I would suggest you do is you write a personal letter to him or her and explain who you are, but also not so much about you, about them and their journey. Yeah. And just put into that a little bit about two things that you're going to bring. I've been able to be a part of this. I've been able to be a part of that. Yeah. And I know that's important about football operations at any level, whether it's high school, college, or pro. And I'd love to have an opportunity, Lauren, to speak with you in the coming weeks. In fact, I'll reach out to you in 2 weeks from today and reach out and just see what opportunities are coming, knowing that we're hopefully on the other side of COVID and that things might open up. And so it has to be more personalized. I got so many Dear John, Dear Jane letters as a GM. And if you make it more personal, it's like, hey, and I don't know if it's Tim Smith, let's just make up the name, is the director of football operations at the Baltimore Ravens. Tim, I saw you started here with the Jacksonville Jaguars. You got yourself over to the Baltimore Ravens. You worked yourself through the ticket office. And now you're like, that's an incredible journey. I would love to speak to you about your journey. In addition, I've been kind of going through a journey too, and where I've worked at high school level, I've worked here, and I'm looking for that next break of an internship. I'm going to reach out to you in 2 weeks from today and love to speak to you further about what you've done, how you've gotten to that spot, because maybe you can give me some advice.
Okay.
You're not looking for the job, you're looking for advice, because when you ask for advice, you're asking for a mentor, and then the mentor becomes a person like, I kind of like Lauren. Maybe we have something for her or him. And so that's the way to try to, but now it can't be just one team. Like you have to be like, I looked at your background. It seems like you like the Chargers a little bit, just for the record. And so you have to be willing to go anywhere, right? So now it's not just one team, it's writing 32 letters to 32 teams to the director of football operations about their specific journey and making sure it's personalized to each one of them. And that way you kind of see, and then you've got to follow up on the calls. And when you get the voicemail and no one calls you back, you call back a week later. And then you call back 2 weeks later. And you're like, hey, I'm just looking to see if there's anything. I just want to talk to you. Again, I want to talk to you about your journey, not I want to talk about a job I want. That
and Lauren, thank you much. And Mark, I'll let you get a closing comment in here with the diversity, and we need more women's sports. Tampa Bay's done a great job. I'm telling you now, if you're an agent, you'll represent a high school player coming out of Hutchinson playing the backup quarterback at K-State. It's a crazy world, but the opportunity, the Bruce Allens of the world, and I got started with Jim Steiner, but I did get started in college athletics. There's so many. We didn't have SMWW back when you were in high school. And I'm not sure I ever would have gone to Fort Hays and got my 3 interceptions in one game because I love my Kansas City Royals and still do. But Mark, in the class, I know you've enjoyed being with us. We love having you in the class. Give just a 30 seconds of why you like having students in the class, because you're in every week with John Wooten and you enjoy it. And tell me why students would enjoy it. And then we'll let you go. And Adam has some important announcements.
Yeah, I think the main thing is that my whole process here and why I work with young players, I work with you all, is to try to give you that just different edge. Yep. Something you're taking SWMM, Sports Management Worldwide, because of the fact that you want to be different. You need to set your resume apart. And there's 100,000 people out there looking for a job just like you are. So how are you making yourself different? So Lauren asked a great question. And the way I responded to her is what I like to do in our classes. Like, how can we help? And how can we educate? Like, and how can you become smarter in what's important to you? Because to me, that's everything. You can become smart in anything that's important to you. It's just got to be that important to you. So for us, for me specifically, it's the opportunity to give back, because I know that there's every once in a while we get one of those people. I start off the show with Sharice, and it's like I see her every year now, or this year. But I know that she's pushed herself a long ways in the National League, or trying to come on her journey. And I also know other people that have gone that same way. And so it doesn't mean you have to be a scout. It doesn't mean you have to become GM. It means that you're trying to find your way to do what you love to do. And we're here to help you do that.
Mark, take care of that family and those kids. It's a crazy year, something to be historical. But Mark, I can't wait for the draft. I can't wait to come in. These doc talks have been invaluable. I want to thank our staff. Adam's going to come in and make some announcements. Mark, have a great week. See you in a couple of weeks. Not at the draft, but we'll be watching closely. You're doing a great job, and you are multitasking. I think it's great. And enjoy Nashville, and we'll take care.
I appreciate you having me on, Dr. Lashbrook.
Thank
Good
you.
To see you all. Thanks for being in, everybody. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you. Ike, I want to bring in Adam now. Adam, thanks for coming in tonight. And Adam will make some announcements. We want everybody working in sports. I do a worldwide chat every Sunday. These courses are lifetime resume service, lifetime experience. We really do think we can help. The Mark Dominiks, we have 50 of them out there, industry leaders. They're sincere. They get live Zoom chats. And I'm going to hand the mic to Adam to kind of clean things up and explain who we are and see if we can answer any more questions before everybody calls it an evening. Thanks for coming in, Adam.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'll just kind of get to the point right away with everyone. My name's Adam Klemick. I'm an SMWW career advisor and also director of our agent advisors, which is an opportunity you get when you take any of our agent courses, such as athlete management or athlete marketing and branding. We have a specific basketball agent course, baseball agent course, soccer agent course. And after you complete any of those courses, you can do co-representation with our certified agents, and you get a 40% commission split on anything the professional contract would bring to the table. I've worked with Dr. Lashbrook on several football players that have been in the NFL. And just wanted to kind of go over what we have to offer and how we operate if you're not familiar with the company itself. We have 8-week online courses with live Zoom chats just like this, that you interact with your instructors via video, depending on the course. Sometimes that's once a week, sometimes that's twice a week, different times of day. They're all recorded and archived. So in the case you miss any of those, you're able to go back and listen to what was spoke about. And then you have access. I noticed some of you guys weren't able to ask Mark all your questions, but then you have access to your instructors via email and or phone, to talk to them. So if you haven't taken Mark's course and you still have questions for him, he is the instructor for the football GM and scouting course. That starts up here again on April 5th. Some other football courses we have a football analytics course that's taught by Aaron Schatz and Mark Tanier. Those guys work for Football Outsiders and Bleacher Report. That's also starting up April 5th. We have a very new, exciting course, football player development, which is going to go over coaching of football players. And it's taught by Mark Tressman, who is a longtime coach in the NFL. Also in the CFL, I believe he won 5 Grey Cups up in the CFL and also coached in the XFL. And then we have a digital video and editing course where you learn the software XOS Thunder. That's the software they use in the NFL. Several Division I schools also use it to edit film. And that's actually beginning next week. It's instructed with Mike Stober of the Jacksonville Jaguars, who's been there for a long time. So those are some of the football courses. To apply for the courses, it's a very easy process. It's free of charge. You go to smww.com. At the top, there will be a list, drop-down boxes, and you can go to courses. We actually have over 30 different courses in multiple sports, all the way even to things like cricket and rugby. So you go in there, you apply. One of our career advisors, either myself or someone else in the office, will either call you the following business day. So if it's on a Friday and you fill it out, you might not get a call until Monday. And we'll just kind of feel out what your goals are and where you kind of want to go in sports. And we'll give you our recommendations and tell you about some of the success stories we've had in multiple sports. Dr. Lashbrook founded the company over 20 years ago. So we know online, we're used to doing it. A lot of these schools, when COVID hit, struggled with trying to figure out the online platform. We've been doing it for 20 years, so we know what we're doing. And then after our courses, which I think is very valuable, having a guy like Mark, you can use him as a reference. We redo your resume for you to get everything you're learning on the course on your resume. We have a whole job links area of what teams are hiring and for what positions and where to be sending your resume. For people that take the scouting courses, I always do follow-up calls with the people that take the courses to make sure they're being aggressive in sending out their resume. But for people that are taking the scouting courses, I always tell them, send a scouting report of either a player on that team or a player coming out in the draft. Send a scouting report along with your resume so it shows you know what you're doing and you know how to write the scouting reports. I think is very important. And then, like I said, using the instructors as references, they give out job opportunities via LinkedIn as well. And once you take one of our courses, you're an alumni for life. Dr. Lashbrook hosts a Sunday morning chat at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time that's open to all alumni and current students. He keeps giving students advice. We have multiple course discounts. If you sign up for 2 courses at the same time, you get a $400 off. If you've taken one course and are interested in another course in the future, you get a $300 discount. And another very exciting program that we have is we are now offering advanced certificates. A very hot thing in the industry right now is getting quote unquote badges on your resume. With those advanced certificates, that's the opportunity you get with those is you'll get a very nice plaque to hang on your wall, but also be able to put that badge on your resume when you're sending it out, which just makes it more noticeable. And those range anywhere from taking 3 to 4 courses in specific areas. So an advanced certificate in football front office or advanced certificate in football scouting, they all vary, but you can find those on the website as well. Obviously, we host the Doc Talks, which are very informative. It's a way to meet the instructors before you sign up for their course. And typically we do conferences as well. Right now, all of our conferences are being done virtually, unfortunately, due to the situation. But hopefully, by summer or hopefully for sure by next year, we'll be doing in-person conferences again. So those are some of the things we do for you. You can see multiple success stories on the website. You can also see, if you go on LinkedIn and search our SMWW alumni group, you can see success stories via LinkedIn as well. So I'll open it up as well for any other questions. I might not be able to answer the ones that you're specifically looking for, Mark, but I have dealt with several GMs and several other people in pro football when I've been working with some of the football players I represent. I've developed some pretty good friends in the business as well. So Jabraylin, if I can answer your question, or I'll try to, if you still want to ask it, feel free. If you want to unmute yourself.
I have a question about some of the players, like when you're evaluating talent as an agent and also as a scout. When you guys got red flags. So like Ron Leaf, when he came out and he had his maturity issues, or guys kind of like Helen Winslow Jr., who have his issues off the field.
Sure.
And recently rookie Isaiah Wilson and his little problems he's been having.
Yeah, typically for the Asian side, and this is how I handle things. I definitely look for a person's character. When I'm first recruiting a player, I always try and get the parents involved, just because who knows the kid better than his own parents. So I usually start looking at players, doing my research, getting contact information, and I usually look for the contact information of the parents first and get them involved. Or sometimes it might be a grandparent, depending on the player's situation, or a guardian, even an older brother. I've dealt with a basketball player before in the past that his older brother was handling a lot of the agent marketing and who he was going to sign with. So it just depends on the situation. But I like to get those people involved because you can get a feel for who the player is personality wise by his parents or his guardian or who's ever handling, helping him in his decision-making process. And after that, I try and talk to someone at the college, usually a football operations guy or who's ever running the pro day. Or I've dealt with a lot of quarterbacks where I try and talk with their quarterbacks coach and their offensive coordinator, get a feel for, what they're like in the quarterback room, how good of a leader they are. And kind of like what Mark mentioned, is he a guy's guy? Like what he said about Trevor Lawrence, is he a teammate and a friend, or is he kind of, a jerk maybe, once he gets off the field to his teammates? So that's how I do it. That's speaking just from the agent side of things. I know from speaking with teams, if you have some character issues, they are going to look deeper into those. And that's why you see a lot of times in the draft, guys fall, the name escapes me right now. Laramie Tunsil, was it maybe? Or the guy who got caught with the gas mask bong on his face 2 days before the draft. I mean, obviously that probably raised some concerns. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, and that's really bad timing, 2 days before the draft, and a picture like that of you comes out, obviously that's going to draw some concerns. So I think teams definitely look at character issues, but also, as it's been proven in the NFL, they do give guys second chances. And I think as long as you can prove yourself on that second chance, if you need one, and keep your head above water and don't get sucked into some of the things, and surround yourself with some of the people that can bring you down, I think most guys get a fair shot and get a good opportunity. So that's my feelings on that. If we want to go to Peter next, I know it's getting late too, so I'm trying to keep it. I know on the East Coast we're after 10 p.m., so I'm trying to keep it somewhat brief here. But Peter, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Peter from Hungary, Budapest,
Hey.
Europe.
What time is it over there?
4 a.m.
Oh, wow. You got up early for this. Good for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Mark, a little bit talk about that. What kind of skills you need to be a scout or an analytics in NFL? But my question is that how can you check by yourself that you have these skills? And also, do you know anybody who made it from Europe to be working in the NFL?
In the NFL, I don't know anyone off the top of my head. But normally what people are looking for to get into scouting in the NFL, and it's taught in our football GM and scouting course, is you got to be familiar with it's called the National and Bledsoe scouting systems. Those are two different types of scouting systems that they use in the NFL. Every team has a Bledsoe scout on their staff, and then a lot of the other guys use the national scouting system. And then there's also another thing called the grading scale. And that's kind of where they grade guys out and kind of put them, they might have them at a 4.8, which means he might be a late 4th round guy, early 5th round guy. So it's called the grading scale. But you have to be very knowledgeable on those three things. And then obviously, lastly, how to write the football scouting reports and the format of them. It varies a little bit team to team. But for the most part, there's one general style that teams use, and you learn how to do that style and format in the course as well when writing the football scouting reports. So you're, like I said, it's the National Scouting or National Bledsoe Scouting Systems, the grading scale, and how to write the football scouting reports. All those things are taught in the football GM and scouting course. So I would look into that a little bit more, because what our courses do, it's all about getting things on your resume that teams are looking for when they're bringing people in for the interview process. So teams don't want to have to train you in regards to those systems. They want you to be already familiar with it. So that's where our courses come into play. And just being, I know someone was on earlier that's a huge Packers fan. So am I. I used to live in Green Bay. My parents have 6 season tickets. I was fortunate. I became friends with Elliot Wolf, whose dad was Ron Wolf, who's in the Hall of Fame. But even if I went to Elliot and said, hey, and Elliot was a scout there for a while. He was up for their GM position before Brian got it. And then he went to Cleveland because there's some other former guys from the Packers running Cleveland before they just had their recent turnover. But if I went to Elliot and said, hey, I want a job with the Packers, he's just because he works there and I'm a friend of his, I got to bring something to the table. I can't. He's not just going to be like, well, Adam's a friend of mine and I think we should bring him onto our staff. If I have nothing to bring to the table, I would be embarrassed to even ask him. So like I said, that's where our courses come into play. You have to have those things on your resume to get noticed, even for when they are hiring for internships or any sort of positions, whether it's in football operations or scouting, or even if it's in ticket sales or anything it might be. You got to bring something to the table. And that's where our courses come into play, which I think is very valuable, because teams, I noticed some people in here had said that they had applied with the Astros or the Texans. Well, if you don't have anything to bring to the table, such as like one of our 8-week courses or something to that effect, or prior experience with a college program, it's going to be tough to get noticed. And, they get hundreds of resumes every month that say, oh, I'm very passionate about football and I'm a huge Packers fan and I would love to work with the team. Well, guess what? You and 100 other people sent in resumes like that probably within the last 3 weeks, and all those, they just file right through the system. Now, if you put together a nice cover letter with some good references of guys that are known in the industry, you attach that scouting report and they actually see, how to format a scouting report. Obviously your resume is going to get moved over to a different pile where, hey, this guy's a possibility to bring in for an interview. Because you are bringing something to the table. So I hope that answers your question. Let's go down to, is it Le'Veon?
It's Levon.
Levon, sorry. They were talking about Le'Veon Bell earlier, so maybe that's right. I kind of got messed up. Go ahead with your question.
Well, I got a couple of questions, but I'm going to keep them brief. I signed up. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. My name is Levon Adams, and I signed up for the NFL agent course. And I signed up for and I'm going to sign up for the NBA agent course. Okay, so the athlete management course or the NFLPA prep course? I think it's the athlete management course, I believe. Okay, so athlete management. So that's going to go over the representation. So that's the one I took. I think it was 8 years ago now. And I've been doing the co-representation for 7 years. So that's taught by Joel Quarry. It starts up again. So you're probably taking the March 29th start date, or are you already in the course? No, it's either March 29th date. It's March. No, it's April. It's an April date.
Okay. I knew it's coming up here shortly, but that's going to go over the representation of football, baseball, basketball, and hockey. It will not go over soccer whatsoever, but it goes over the 4 major sports in North America. So you'll get familiar with representing all 4 of those sports. I took that course, because back when I took it, that was the only agent course that we had to offer other than soccer. And I didn't know personally what sport I was going to have the most contacts in. I knew I wanted to do football, but it just so happens the very first player that I ever represented was Alfonso McKinney, who's a basketball player with the Los Angeles Lakers now. He came out of University of Wisconsin, Green Bay, which is the same college that I graduated from. So I went back with our NBA PA certified agent, Brett Canis, flew back to Green Bay. They added point guard at that time by the name of Kiefer Sykes, who was looking at possibly getting a second round pick in the NBA draft. Height wasn't on his side though. He was kind of short. So I flew back, met Brett there, and we met with Kiefer, another player by the name of Greg Mays, and Alfonso. And Alfonso ended up signing with us. So I ended up having my first player the whole time. I'm thinking it's going to be football, is really a basketball player who then went on. We got him to some exposure camps in Las Vegas. He went overseas and played in Luxembourg for a while, went down to Mexico, then represented Team USA on a 3-on-3 tournament over in China. They won the gold medal. I forgot, Randy is his first name. He was the coach of that 3-on-3 team, but he also worked for the Chicago Bulls. So he invited him to try out for the Windy City Bulls, which is the Chicago Bulls G League team. Al ended up making the G League team and then was on the All-Star game for the G League and in the dunk competition. And then he got a contract with the Warriors, and then he went over in the JaVale McGee trade to the Cavs. Or no, from the Cavs, he went over to the Lakers in the JaVale McGee trade. But from the Warriors, he went to the Cavs, and now he's with the Lakers. And then since, I've represented several football players with Dr. Lashbrook. So getting in, the difference between that and the basketball agent course specifically is going to be the basketball agent course is going to be specifically focusing on basketball with the international flavor brought to it. Because let's put it this way, the NBA only has a 15-man roster. They only have 2 rounds for a draft. And a lot of those first round guys are going to be represented by the CAAs or Athletes First, some of the big time agencies that are out there because they can afford to pay for $35,000 worth of training with a coach. So a really great niche area to have for basketball is sending guys internationally, whether it's down to South America, whether it's over to Europe. China pays big money. So does some of the Korean leagues pay pretty big money as well. And the nice thing about getting guys that are playing overseas is that if you get, 6, 7, 8 guys that are making 6 figures overseas, the nice thing about overseas basketball is you can charge 10% agent fees, and you don't have to invoice your players for it. The teams actually pay the agent fees. So, like I said, if you have 10 guys making $200,000 and you can charge 10% on that, you're starting to bring in a nice chunk of money. And then, like I said, who knows? Al ended up getting his opportunity in the G League and now is in the NBA. There's different routes. There's several players on NBA teams. I was watching a game earlier that weren't drafted. They were free agent guys and took different paths to get to where they are now. I think, what was it? Fred VanVleet just put up 53 points the other night, and he was an undrafted guy. Yeah, exactly.
I got one more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, and I'm gonna put it on mute on this after this one.
Sure.
Now, do you recommend we also take the scouting course? Just so we can know the talent that we're trying to represent.
Yeah, so that's what I did. Eventually down the road, and that's a great question. For me, once I got into football and representing football players, scouts have a different way of speaking. I like to call it scout talk. So I wanted to become a better agent and not waste my time on guys that were never going to get a professional contract, whether it was in the NFL or CFL or even XFL. I just didn't want to. When you're being an agent, it's a lot of work and process of going through and recruiting these players. And sometimes you have to decide on how much money you might want to invest in training for them before their pro day or a combine. And that investment could be anywhere from, the least I've spent is $900 nothing on some guys to $2,000 up to $10,000. There's other agencies that have paid up to $30,000 to go down to a facility like Mark was talking about, Exos down in Arizona. That's probably 30 grand for their combine training. So for me, I took the scouting course just for I could know what scouts are looking for in guys that can play professionally. B, when I was at pro days, speaking with scouts that were interested in my players, I wouldn't come across as, I guess, for basic terms, an idiot. I knew what they were talking about when they were speaking to me. And it just overall benefited me. And then not only that, but after 7 years of doing this, I have a pretty good Rolodex of guys that are in the NFL. So if I ever did, let's say down the road, want to transition to the football side of things and actually work for an organization, it doesn't hurt to have that course on my resume as well. And knowing the scouting systems and the grading scale and writing the football scouting reports. So I think if you can do it, I think it's very beneficial, not only to becoming a better agent, but down the road, it might open up some doors for you as well, even if you start out on the agency side of things. So that's a great question. I'm glad you asked it. Does anyone? Yeah, thanks. Thanks for coming in. I'm going to try and wrap things up unless if anyone else has any other questions. Like I said, the applications are free of charge. You just go to smww.com. Applications are free of charge. Someone will get back to you. We got a lot of the football courses starting up here over the next few weeks. And like I said, hopefully I gave out my email earlier on the chat, but if you guys have any questions after tonight's chat and would like an answer to them, you can email me. My email address is just Adam, ADAM, at S like sports, M like management, ww.com. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'll hand it back over to Ike and he can wrap things up.
Yeah, thanks, Adam, and thank you everyone for coming in. It's a great session as always, and we're very excited to have everyone in here. The recording for this will be sent out tomorrow. Once it becomes available to us, you will be getting an email from myself, as you did kind of about an hour before this Doc Talk. So be looking out for an email from me probably around 9:30 to 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Again, once this recording does become available. And our next Doc Talk is actually going to be on the 8th, this coming Monday, with Jen Mueller talking about women in sports. So I know Lauren, who was in here, asked some great questions about women getting into sports. So we're going to have a whole Doc Talk on that. So we hope to have as many of you in there as we did again this evening and as in previous chats as well. So looking forward to having everyone there. Adam, thank you very much for your time and sharing that information. And everyone, thank you for spending the time with us as well. And we'll see you all on the next one.
Thanks, Ike.
Thanks, guys.